Okie dokie, artichoke. I think we're good.
Cool. Yay.
Mm. So I haven't really been following this a whole lot, although I've been feeling the energy of it. I mean, I've been feeling a full spectrum from it. I think it's good that's coming up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting to see the waves that are coming out from it, the different perspectives, the different illuminations. I definitely think it's good that it was coming up. I was surprised when I saw it last week because the first person I saw it from was not somebody I really expected to touch on something like that. So it really kind of took me by surprise. And it's really interesting because immediately I wanted, part of me wanted to comment below, comment me too or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then I stopped myself and I just said, does that really need to be your story anymore? Because you're so far removed from that, from those experiences and that part of yourself. And so I love that it's so empowering for a collective group of people to be coming out and sharing and expressing their vulnerability and releasing that part of themselves. Mm-hmm. And then it was interesting for me to experience a sense of empowerment by not sharing mm-hmm. that anymore and not connecting in that way anymore. So I love it. I think it's great. I think that on one hand, yes, what we focus on just expands. I've seen a lot of those kind of posts and comments. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, on some dimensional level, like this is us evolving. Like this is necessary. This has been trapped for a really long time, and this is the way it needs to be shaken up.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing, at a shadow integration and a huge expansion mm-hmm. in awareness, and a call for the masculine to rise up and shift, mm-hmm. And for the feminine to also rise up and shift and step fully into her power, to not allow that to occur anymore. Mm-hmm. So I think it's really beautiful. I think that this is kind of like, it's a collective, it's a release. It's, when we go through things like that and we have to be with the process of everything that comes with that, mm-hmm. the heartache, the sorrow, the pain, the challenge, the fear, the isolation, the terror in some cases, mm-hmm. And how we have to experience that on a very visceral level in order to release that and to integrate it and to reclaim our power and to say, I'm not going to tolerate or allow this in my experience anymore. So there's so many dynamic facets to this. And I think it's really beautiful that people are opening up and expressing it and bringing awareness to it, and not hiding it anymore, not repressing it anymore. And I also think that it's clearing a pathway for the release of those stories, because that's something that I've been noticing in my reality a lot more too, because those experiences and in my reality have made me stronger, wiser, bolder, more powerful than I could have ever dreamed imaginable. Being in situations where, my faith, my trust, my magic was all that I had literally to survive and keep myself safe. And then integrating those parts of me that were angry and hurt, and quite frankly enraged by what was occurring, really helped me to loose and liberate my power and to set strong, healthy boundaries for myself and my life and my body. And I'm not sure that for me, I would have gotten to that point of integration, empowerment, embodiment if I hadn't experienced those harsher realities. And then eventually, like you're saying, you release that and you let go of that storyline because it no longer defines you. It's not something that is continuing to cycle through your being. Although I've been feeling quite a large spectrum of waves emanating from this as well. All ends of the spectrum. People who truly have shifted out of that frequency and are just bringing their story forth to raise awareness, and others who are still deeply attached to the story. And it's almost like a sticky energy, you know, and those can be some of the toughest patterns to break, to really break free from the hold and the grip that those stories have. Mm-hmm. And that really comes down to integration, or at least that's what it came down for me, was allowing myself to go into the fullness of how I really felt about what happened without any inhibitions, no limitations, no filters, just really raw and real and primal, to express and work through those energies. And then after I did that for quite a while, the charge dissolved in my energy, and it integrated fully. So, so many dynamic facets to this. It's really beautiful in a lot of different ways. And I think the thing that really excites me the most about it is that the release of it, so that we can step into something new, so that we can step into brighter, more new futures. Because a message that was coming through as well, I find it so interesting that as humans, we relate on some of the deepest levels through our pain and through our challenge, and that is still celebrated in our culture. Mm-hmm. And, you know, even in business, how often do you hear, tell people your story, connect to people's pain points? And I think that what I would like to see as a leader, and I know that you would love to see this too, is us connecting through celebration, through us connecting through success, through newness, through expansion, through seeing things through different perspectives in new lenses, to shifting into new possibilities and new realities, and celebrating that, and emphasizing that, and not using pain as a way to relate anymore. I think it's beautiful when we're going through something like that. And I know you and I have connected on some deep levels through things that we're going through in private, you know, between us, and that having that connection with a friend or a lover, or support system, or a family member is really palpable and powerful to help us shift through those times in our lives and find solutions and find courage to step in new directions. But I don't think that should be a point of connection. I don't think it should be the thing that sustains our relationships to one another as humans. I think that it's a beautiful aspect, in that it can be really profound to create connection between people. But there's more to that connection. You know, what about creation and building and playing and advancing and progressing and, you know, stepping into these higher dimensional realities together? And so something that I'm seeing from this is that it's an opportunity on a mass collective level to cycle through and release these stories for good and step into something new and empowering, and to start relating to one another in new ways.
Yeah.
We were talking about this a little bit yesterday, but there's a couple, really one in particular, a friendship in my life. And in a lot of ways, it's almost draining to me now, because every time it's a story, and it's a story. And at a certain point, it's not connection anymore. It's just, hear me. I want to be right. I want to be a victim. I want to perpetuate the story. So I think it's really helpful to discern, what the person's relationship to that event in their life is, and everything is valid, but I'm really starting to notice the attachment to the story. And it doesn't really even matter what the story is about. In this particular situation that I'm talking about, it has nothing to do with abuse, but it's just more about like the parents and that whole thing. And then other people, and, you know, and it's like, well, when do we take responsibility also? When do we take responsibility to release those stories and to create new ones?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is about taking responsibility, and I'm glad we're shifting it this way, because I did actually have this awareness about 2 nights ago, where I was lying in bed, going to sleep, kind of clearing my energy, and really coming to this solid standpoint about a relationship in my life, where all of a sudden it really hit home at the root. I do not want to connect with this person in this way anymore, because I was seeing myself kind of cycle back into a way of connecting or relating to them via pain. Like I saw myself begin to tiptoe there again, and I just thought, no, I no longer want to connect with anybody via pain. I don't want to connect with each other from our trauma or our stories or the drought or the sorrow or the exhaustion or any of it. And there's a lot of people in our lives who you will encounter, who you may know, whatever, who will not want to do that with you, who will not want to be in that space, and that's okay. But, and the other thing too is collectively seeing so many people release their stories allows them to break free of being a victim of this, even being an expectation. I mean, for some people, they'll still cycle in the victimhood of it for a while. But for a lot of people, by just having this kind of platform come up and saying like, yeah, it's okay to talk about it, no matter how big or small it is. This is what happened to me. This is what happened to me. There's almost this air about it right now, which I really love, that's not aggressive or fighting or blaming. It's just simply about the release, which is absolutely wonderful, because for how many decades now have women collectively had a lot of that anger and fighting energy against men and the masculine and the patriarchy. And so it's just been this for a while. And right now, what I'm at least been seeing and feeling is just simply just this release, which is exactly what is needed for us to shift and evolve out of anything, out of a story, out of a belief system. So that's definitely what was coming through for me, is also, because if we're continuing to connect via pain, are we really having a connection at all at the end of the day? Because you're not connecting to your soul, you're connecting to your wounds, and we're all just, you know, connecting via wounds, like rubbing scab against scab instead of rubbing like heart against heart, and allowing ourselves to have joyful experiences with one another. So also it's coming through now is this is a big collective shift, releasing fear around receiving love, around feeling love, around it being safe to be and embrace love again.
Yeah. It's really interesting. And I like that you said that there's an expectation there sometimes too. And I also really appreciate the tone of what's circulating right now too, because there is a sense of detachment and awareness. But what I've been recognizing is that in certain connections, there's like a pull on the energy. Listen to me, hear me, fill me,
True.
feed me, entertain me. And there's no true desire for actual authentic connection. So there's a level of sincerity that is required, and then a level of listening, like true listening, not just creating empty space, but do you hear really what I'm saying? Do you care to hear really what I'm saying? And I think that along with sincerity is a practice, being sincere about how we really feel and what our actual honest authentic experience is, and that kind of feels like it ties into the tone of what's happening, because I do feel a lot of sincerity in everything that I have read so far, which I really appreciate, and I appreciate everyone listening to one another. I mean, I've seen some other things circulating about it as well, but I'm not going to go there right now. But what I've realized is that those who are deeply attached to their story, it's almost like it's on a loop and it's on repeat. And it's really quite draining. It's like, hear me, hear me, hear me. Here's my story. Here's my story. And so those are just parts of the self. And if you find yourself, if you're listening to this and you find yourself in that loop, the guidance there is to listen to yourself, tap into yourself, ask yourself what you need for you, for self-love, for self-trust, instead of trying to, because that creates such a codependence, and then that becomes quite burdensome for other people who, and it doesn't really matter who it is, it could be friend, a family member, stranger at the supermarket, tries to grab your attention for however long. But I've realized recently how I just don't want to participate in that anymore at all. Like Same. At all. Not even the tiniest bit do I want to entertain it or really be around it very much. It's just like, if there's going to be an authentic connection, then yes, let's do that. If that's not what this is going to be, then I'll allow you to have your journey and your path in the way that you need to, independent of my path. And so I'm hoping that this creates an opportunity for deeper, more authentic connection. But I also think it's really interesting that in order for us to come to that place, it's almost like we have to create pain for ourselves in some way in order to get to that place. And I want to see us shift through that too. I want to see us connecting on ideas. I want to see us connecting on activating our potential. I want to see us connecting on building and creating and advancing our society. That, there's so many tools and resources and technologies and frequencies and realities that we have available to us right now. They're right here, right now. We just need to shift our attention into that and start playing there. Because that's really, that's what the soul craves. It craves expansion. And those stories are very confining at a certain point, It's almost like that would be my idea of a self-imposed prison, is having a story on repeat like that over and over and over and over, and not being able to figure out how to break free from that story. So what would you suggest for somebody who's in that loop and is trying to break free from their story?
My recommendation immediately is stillness. It's a lot of what you and I already speak to so often, because when you're constantly in that loop trying to get out, you're constantly looking outside of yourself. You're constantly looking for that validate me, love me, connect with me, hold me, feel me, listen to me, touch me, nourish me, validate me, trust me, hear me, anything. It's that fighting energy. And I mean, I've learned this, you've learned this long time ago through our painful experiences, is that just perpetuates the cycle, and you never get that from anything outside of yourself. And it wasn't until those moments when I literally sat there with the depth of the pain of my soul and just felt it and just listened to myself, my inner child, whatever came out, whatever wanted to come up, then it just, I was able to let go. I was able to see the path clearing. I was able to see the door that had been open right in front of me this entire time of healing, so to speak. But I love what you're saying too, because that's, again, that's why so much of what we speak to is the fact that you do not need to heal anymore. You do not need to keep searching for wounds and scabs and burdens and lack and what do I need to heal? What do I need to dig up? What do I need to search for? Where's the darkness that needs light? You don't need to keep doing that. That's us continuing to perpetuate this cycle of victim consciousness. If you need to release something, release it like we're being shown. But we're all still craving true connection, and that comes from heart to heart, soul to soul, from a profoundly light level, a nourished level, an abundant level. Like when we're sharing these new ideas, that's why so much of what we're channeling lately is these high waves of intelligence and technologies and ideas and visions and all this newness coming through, because that's what we're ready to connect to and connect with each other. And you can look at this as a number of different ways, place whatever vocab or spin on it you want. But it's like the vision I'm being shown right now is the more people continue to try to connect with one another through their pain, it's almost like they're just looking down and bumping into each other like this, never looking up and seeing each other in their eyes, in their hearts, in their souls, in their ideas, in their frequency, in their life, Yeah.
Yes. And in each other too. There was just like an interesting occurrence that happened in my home tonight. And the way that I was looking at it was completely different from how somebody else was perceiving it. But it's interesting to see how even the same thing can be given an empowering meaning or a disempowering meaning. And usually, well, the disempowering meaning always comes from a space of lack and a need for some kind of attention, some kind of a, like creating some kind of a drama on some level. That's what's coming up. Because there's a lot there. So, because if there's that abundance energy, there's excitement, there's thrill, there's exhilaration. There's all of that stuff because you're constantly in that conscious creation mode. So what they were bringing me back to too, when you were talking about the need for all of that validation that we can seek to pull in, and I think that's why we perpetuate those pain stories with those who are also perpetuating their pain story, is because for a short while at least, we can help one another fill that gap so that we don't have to go in and do that deep internal work like you're speaking to, where you have to be with it. And you have to learn how to be that for yourself to become fully empowered and activated. And they were showing me that energy of need. So this is really powerful for creation too. So I really want to point this out for co-creating and directing your reality, is that if there's a need energy, I need something from you. I expect you to be a certain way so that I can fill in the blank. I judge you to be fill in the blank, right or wrong, and I need you to shift or change in order to fill my storyline of what I believe to be is right or wrong. There's always a lack there, because when you feel truly abundant and truly empowered, there's no need from anybody else to fill you, to behave a certain way, to do a certain thing. Now, I'm not saying you need to be directly immersed in the environment. I mean, you have conscious choice. But there's not a need there. It would just be as simple as like, this is a preference. This is a preference. you know? But so there's a big thing here too around releasing the need for validation outside of the self, releasing the need for, not the need for connection, but the need for like comfort, validation. Yeah, for people to be a certain way in order for you to be in your power, to be in your creative center, for you to be in love with yourself, to be anchored and grounded in your own alignment, in your own sovereignty. And so I feel with this too, that energy of that codependence is starting to unravel and be released. And I think that, I mean, that's going to just accelerate over the next coming years. I mean, in a really big way, it's going to start accelerating through 2020. But all of that codependence is coming undone, which is really beautiful. Because that means people are going to wake up to who and what they actually are and what their power is to create and mold and shape their world. And then once you don't need anything from anyone else anymore in that way, with that kind of needy energy, you can share true connection because we're both showing up. And it's just, I'm just here to connect with you, to share with you, to express with you, to play with you. And there's no agenda. There's no thing that I'm trying to get. There's no thing that I need from you to make me feel whole. And that's another thing that I've been playing with today a lot too, is wholeness. And within that desire for external validation, it's because there are certain parts of the self that haven't been met yet. And so I'm really thankful this is going on, because there's a lot of shadow integration that's going on. And I think often, particularly in the spiritual community, and we know I was I was having some pushback with the polarization of light work, because there needs to be shadow integration for wholeness to happen, for wholeness to click into place. And I think that it's I think it's disempowering and dishonest to pull people towards one polar direction, and to not incorporate all aspects of the whole self. I mean, truly, to integrate into wholeness, it's about learning how to be with all the parts, all the parts of the self. And so anywhere we still need validation, I think, is where that whole still exists within us, because that's a part of ourselves we're still in resistance or judgment to. So I can't fully accept my own darkness, my own shadow, my own judgments, my own attachments, my own whatever. I haven't learned how to be with, embrace, and love those parts of me. And therefore, when somebody else shows up in that way, it, well, one, it's very triggering. And two, it calls me to go to places that I don't feel comfortable going with inside of myself. And so there's really two stark choices there. Either you keep avoiding yourself and averting those aspects of self, or you integrate them and you experience your own wholeness. And so this is stepping into the deeper truth that is available through unconditional love, is that it's not just for what we perceive or what we have been conditioned to perceive as our ideals of what is good. So on the other side of this, for me, when I was integrating through my rape that occurred, at the end of that, because I chose to embody and integrate my own darkness, my own shadow, those aspects of my own pain, I could then have true compassion for the other person that was involved in that, for creating that in my reality, for that showing up in my experience, all the lessons that it had to teach me. And that's a critical integration to have happen. This isn't about shutting out the abusers. It's actually, in a lot of ways, about realizing that exists within us too, whether it's mentally, emotionally, physically. I've also been realizing a lot lately around, and we talked about this, because it's just, everything's been so much more objective and detached lately, how much emotional manipulation and emotional abuse goes on by people who proclaim love until the moment you don't be the way they need you to be. And then this whole other side comes out, but then that's okay. that's showing up. And so sometimes I just sit back and I look at that and I observe that and I just wonder, like, do we realize what's going on? Does that, does the person realize that that's going on? I know I didn't realize that was going on when I was doing it. And so now it's just been kind of an interesting thing to observe overall. I know I'm going down a bunch of different pathways here, but it's, for me, it's all tying back into the stories and the emotions that we get entangled in our stories, and the ways that we perpetuate that and the way that we promote that in our culture. And that a lot of that has led to a lack of authenticity and shadow integration, which is necessary. And really all that is to me, because there's sometimes what I'm getting around this right now is that, well, so does shadow integration mean that I'm going to be like this golden Buddha, fully illuminated at the top of the mountain because I'm fully integrated and unified and whole and one and all of that? And it's like, no, you are going to be a whole human being, which means that you will unconditionally love and embrace all aspects of yourself as they arise. And that's the freedom, is the non-resistance to self anymore. Non-resistance to any aspect of the self. Yeah, it's just that true unconditional love. Like I really want whoever's listening to this right now to feel into what that actually means. That does not mean I only love what I think is good, or what I think is beautiful, or what I think is right according to my conditioning. It's taking the conditioning, the story off, and choosing to appreciate the isness of everything. And we talked about this before, but there, when people, especially as we step into our power and our role as creators, some people are going to want to create taboo things. Some people are going to want to create occult things, and it's like you can't run away from that, and we're not going to just like take away power of choice for other beings. So what are the other options here? I think it's to learn how to consciously choose and select what we want inside of our own personal reality, and to accept and realize a lot of those things are still going to be arising. And that's why over the past couple of years, even as we've seen the acceleration of and the expansion of light and light workers and energy work and multidimensional channels and all of this, look at all the other things that are happening on the planet that might otherwise be considered dark. So there's these polarities that are existing, but ultimately they have to come together as one. We have to accept that they're both here. They're both real. They both exist within us and within the world around us. And the inherent freedom is learning how to not be in resistance to the fact that it is.
Yeah, there's sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. I was just going to say then, and that it will always be there.
Yeah, I think a key thing to point out here as far as the whole polarity and spirituality thing is concerned is, what is the main message that is coming through for all of us as spiritual beings, awakened beings, light workers, whatever you want to call it, is enjoyment. Enjoying every aspect of yourself, of your world, of your reality, of your creation, of your environment. So that is liberating yourself from judgment. I mean, it's hypocritical to speak and play into and believe a certain thing about spirituality, that you need to only just focus and ascend into the light, and anything that's dark or taboo or shadowy or in the void or whatever is needs to stay behind closed doors, or you need to not enjoy it. You release it when you do enjoy it, not like you're trying to get rid of it in the first place.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, if you think about the perspective, let's just play with this. If I was an alien,
which you are,
above, which I am, which we all are, and I'm just hovering over Earth and I'm watching this madness, all I'm gonna see is A, a lot of people running around in circles, and B, humans just being curious, experimental beings. I'm not going to see it as anything right or wrong or good or bad. It's just going to be like, oh, there goes those humans. Here, look at this new experience they're creating. Oh, look at what they're doing. I mean, there's no good or bad, and that it's neutralizing. When you really go there with some of those dark parts of yourself that you're not supposed to enjoy, you're not supposed to like, or you're supposed to release and let go of and heal and blah, 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 and it's supposed to hurt, or you can't tell anybody. When you just go there and recognize the only reason it was brought into you in the first place was for you to enjoy it in some capacity, and you just admit that, you give yourself permission to do the most riskiest thing in the world, which is release all judgment, shame, guilt, and fear and doubt, and just love thyself. And just enjoy thyself in all aspects. So that's how you shift and evolve and become whole.
Yes. And so I hear someone asking right now too, so if I were in the position of abuser, should I just shamelessly accept myself and enjoy that I am that? So that question is coming up, and it's a collective thought. But in order for that, I'm going to say yes. I'm going to be bold, and I'm going to say yes. Because in order for that person to shift and evolve and transform, and become a self-loving being whose shadows aren't repressed, they're going to have to embrace them. And if that's one of the that's why it becomes a shadow, because it's repressed. And then what happens when energy is repressed and repressed and repressed? It comes out like a volcano. So if that's something that has already occurred, and that's something that person wants to shift into a different expression of that energy, then they're going to have to unconditionally love themselves exactly as they are for all the things that they've done. And then they can learn how to channel that energy in new and different ways that feel more empowering to them and others. But yes, it's the same for any of us who have done anything.
Exactly. I mean,
to self or other, because that's what's a big one coming. Yeah, sorry, for women.
We just can't help ourselves.
Oh my God, it's so good.
Oh my God.
Wait, no, you go ahead. Okay, wait, you go. Oh my God, I'm so glad we had fun.
Oh man. I mean, it's the same thing that's coming through for you, coming through for me is when you're speaking to that, because I'm also picking up on the individuals who are in judgment of that or fear of that. How dare you say an abuser should admit and enjoy and love the fact that they're an abuser? Well, you're an abuser too. All of us are. We have that ingrained in our human because we have been wired to operate from codependency. I don't believe, we haven't reached that state of evolution yet where everybody pops out of the womb and grows up as interdependent beings. We're not there quite just yet in this reality. And so if you've engaged in codependency, if you have self-harmed or self-abused in any sort of way, that could be something as simple as eating too many sweets. Okay? I mean that's technically self-harm and self-abuse.
Well, there's those aspects from like a visceral, like going this way towards self-destruction. And then there's also the abuse of guilting and shaming other people who don't believe the way that you do, who don't act the way that you think that they should act, who don't feed into your storyline around what you think reality and humans should look like. That is its own kind of abuse. It's emotional abuse. It's mental abuse. And so that's something that I want to bring into awareness as well, is really looking at that. So and so I'm going to use my father as an example, and I love him so much. And I love him so much. We've been through a lot together. We've done a lot of deep healing. Or I would say we've come through a lot of resolution together. But man, it was volatile growing up. And I remember standing in the kitchen with him one time. And he was so mad at me for something I said or something I did. And he was trying to make it my fault that he would physically lash out. Mm-hmm. And I remember sitting there with him, and he was yelling. He was very angry. And I didn't feel any kind of like reaction in that moment. I didn't feel any desire to fight back. Because I could, in that moment, and I will never forget this. My mom was standing there too. I could just see something so much deeper happening in him. And I realized that he had been in such deep self-repression and self-denial about what he was doing and carrying through those patterns from his father, into our family, and how much shame he felt towards himself for that, and that he had to deny it on some level to even be able to cope with the fact that he was doing that. He had to justify it. He had to rationalize it for himself, that as his own coping mechanism. And beneath the anger and beneath the denial, I could see, because I'm seeing his eyes right now from that moment, I could see so much pain. And for the first time in my life, I had compassion for him. I had compassion for the things that he was doing and for the ways that he was showing up, because I realized what an internal war he was experiencing within his own self, for it to come out and express that way towards another human being, and how that pattern was so deeply ingrained in him from his family. And then there were so many layers to that. And this is an opportunity for us as well to start seeing to all the deeper layers on both sides, because, and I'm just going to use masculine and feminine, gender doesn't matter, and this is all totally interchangeable. But what I often see is that sometimes, both parties go into a situation with a certain expectation, right, of how the partner should be or how the partner should show up. And particularly if men don't show up in a certain way, I tend to see women become mentally, emotionally abusive, judgmental, and to the point where they feel like they don't have any freedom. And then it comes out as an outlash, and then the woman is mad, and then she comes out with her outlash of feeling suppressed and oppressed and abused, and that's just this big game that goes on. But everybody involved in something like that has to take ownership and responsibility for their part, for their abuse on whatever level that is playing out on. We can't continue to blame and project our experience, what we are feeling and what we are experiencing inside of ourselves, onto the world around us, because the world around us is a projection of our internal state. Mm-hmm. We have to take responsibility for that. And I think from that like alien perspective you were giving a while ago, I was thinking how that's sometimes how I feel, where I'm focused and I'm doing my thing, you know, and I observe my reality sometimes, and I can feel and see all the energetic interplays and exchanges. And I just wonder the level of self-awareness or the self-responsibility that people are willing to step into and take for their whole experience, because nobody can make anybody feel a certain way. Nobody can make anybody else think a certain way, perpetuate certain stories, any of that. That is your choice. And we have to start taking responsibility for that on all ends. So that blame game, pointing the finger, guilt, shame, projection, abuse, all of that, like it's just time to fucking own up. And to own up to our darkness, to own up to our light, to own up to every part of who and what we are, and to embrace it, like you're saying, to celebrate it, to enjoy it on some level, because that's where you release all the resistance and you set yourself free. Mm-hmm. You know, we are human beings, even though we're hybrid human beings, and we're awakening to all of our galactic supernormal abilities and powers and capabilities to create and read energy and create new dimensional realities and new worlds and new experiences for ourselves at a more rapid pace than ever before. We still have this human element to us, and if you think that you're never going to experience a negative emotion ever again, and that you're only ever going to experience pure and utter joy and excitement, then I would say that this is an opportunity to expand your awareness, because that's just not real.
Yeah, exactly. It's understanding that all the things we're told about enlightenment and transformation and this dimensional experience and living in pure joy and pure bliss. Pure joy and pure bliss doesn't look or feel like what you thought it did or thought it was supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
We're shifting out of duality into polarity, and there you can reside in pure joy and pure bliss when the underlying current behind whatever emotion you're experiencing is joy and bliss, because you're not attached to it. You see why you're creating it. You see why you're experiencing it, and you don't judge it as good or bad. You don't try to push it. You don't try to shove it. I mean, I just experienced this over my weekend. Over my weekend, I had a very physical experience I was moving. I had things go quote unquote wrong. My physical energy was low. There was lots of stress from others around me. And I noticed certain emotional responses that came out of me. And behind that, I didn't have that feeling of victimhood that often comes with that anymore. I was very consciously aware of why I was choosing to feel that in that moment. A lot of times it was just physical exhaustion and me needing a way to release that charge and have that relief. So the mind creates a bit of a story just to get yourself to kind of go there with that charge. And I didn't judge that. I was happy that I'm still experiencing that. And that sounds a little complex, or like they're competing ideas or competing thoughts. But there's a time in your life when you are still unconscious and you're a victim and you're not choosing your reality and you're escaping and you're abused and you're the abuser, and there's all of that, right? The feeling behind the feeling is lack, is victimhood.
Yes.
Now the feeling behind the feeling is still joy, and it's consciousness, it's awareness. I mean, I will notice when my ego starts to want to create from an old pattern or want to kind of create some drama, and I'm very well aware and in joy of that, because I realize it just needs to have some fun. It's just a part of me or some energy that's looking for an outlet, and this is the way it's used to receiving. So I can shift the energy into a different experience if I want to, or I can take the seat of the observer and just kind of laugh at myself and laugh at what's going on, because none of it really matters. That's the pure joy and the pure bliss, is being so far removed and detached from the meaning of our experience.
So as you're saying that, they're showing me, until the emotions are processed, felt, experienced, it's challenging for a lot of people to detach from their story, to detach from needing validation, needing energy, needing approval from the environment. Those parts of the self have to be met and integrated first, and then you can detach, and then you can look around and not internalize everything. And so they're saying, when you were speaking to that, okay, so I want to pull a couple things through, and the first one is, what if it's all okay? What if it is all okay? And then whatever our resistance to it all being okay is, that's where our spiritual growth is, and that's about us. And then, because what you're speaking to is so profound, and I really want to pull this energy all the way through for people. You're speaking to unifying the paradox that is human existence. It's enjoying the moments when you are in judgment, and the moments when you are in a shadowy element, or you want to embody your dark goddess energy or whatever. You're enjoying the experience of that. So the expression might not look like your conditioned perception of joy, but you are still enjoying, you are bringing love to, you are bringing joy to whatever the experience is. You're bringing acceptance to whatever the experience is. And that's unconditional love, accepting things as they are. And that's where the most profound growth and change and transformation and progression can occur. I mean, think about a love relationship. What do you most want in a love relationship? You want to be accepted exactly as you are. Everybody wants that. But if we get really honest with ourselves, think about how often in your realities you're in full acceptance of yourself and others. And that's okay too. And this is where it starts to get a little bit, the paradox comes into play, because it's accepting even when you're not in acceptance.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, it's accepting that I don't choose to accept, and accepting that this is the experience this person is choosing to have. It's accepting that I accept that this person chooses to have this experience or be in this way with their being. And I accept that I don't accept it to be a part of my experience, meaning I can observe it, but I'm not going to attach to it.
Right. Yes. And you don't have to necessarily agree with or align with everything that's occurring either. And that's another one where boundaries and choice are really powerful tools for creating the exact life that you want to experience. Honestly, this past year for me, I mean, my inner circle has become very small. It has become very small, and it is filled with genuine, honest, courageous, expansive, creative, expressive, empowered, sovereign beings. And if it's not existing within that, it's not that I don't still love It's just that I'm not going to get myself entangled in the energies of those beings who still are existing from lack, outside of wholeness, outside of their own power, outside of their own sovereignty, attached to a story, attached to a belief structure, attached to an identification, in a way that inhibits their own expansion. And I just don't want to, like, I feel no desire, no need, no call to give any energy to any of that anymore, or to entertain it in any way. And, you know, we were talking about this not too long ago, but we think about like the initiations that we've had to go through to really step into and expand into the multidimensional awareness and power of who and what we are, and the experience of who and what we are. No savior plopped down into my reality and said, here, grab my hand. No $1 million bag of money dropped into my lap. No amazing, perfect love relationship showed up for me to sit and divulge all of my stories and pastimes and, you know, whatever to help me shift and transform and evolve. I had to come in to me, because that is where the power is. We all have to take that journey if we want to unlock those awarenesses. And I mean, really, life is the best initiator. Life is the best initiator. You have to eventually, at some certain point, you have to learn how to let go of the cultural conditioning, the societal programming. I mean, any ingrained thought group. I don't even care what it is. It's even around like identifications of self and who you should be and what's socially acceptable or what's acceptable in life in general, or even around spiritual concepts and things like that. You've got to go in and you have to learn how to trust yourself. You have to trust your gifts, to trust your intuition, trust your inner knowing, trust your own creations and what you have physically experienced in your own reality, the energy that you have created from. You've got to go in and learn how to trust all of that. And I mean, I think that, and that's another thing too I want to start sharing more about, is leadership and what this next wave of leadership actually looks like. And it's sovereign, empowered individuals working together.
Yes, exactly. I mean, enough of, let's speak to this for a second. If you're someone following the crowd or following the leader to become a leader because you know deep inside you're meant to be a leader and you're a leader, you're just playing into the same paradigm of, it's like a blueprint that no longer exists. It's this paradigm that's deconstructing at a very rapid rate. It's not the truth of what leadership actually is. And that's why I think it's so empowering to see so many really on their way to being, or very much so sovereign beings, stepping out and making themselves known and releasing the fear and the judgment that so many people have had around that for so many years, because that's what we're all after at the end of the day anyways. I mean, we're totally breaking up and called to break up and break out of that paradigm. And on top of it, and I have had this download, I mean, that's why you and I are working together. I had this download about 1.5 years ago on, it's not working for so many people anymore because they're still trying to just do it all alone. Why do you think we keep seeing the same ideas? It's not because those ideas are cookie cutter. It's because we're all tapping into the same source of consciousness and we're meant to build it together. I mean, why do we have 50,000 people trying to implement and create the same damn thing and getting results? If they would just come together, then we would really create that wave. We would really have that, I don't want to use the word impact, influence of expansion, let's say.
Yes. Or expansion of influence. And both. And it was something that Well, and just for me in general, the time to not conform.
Mm-hmm.
Now is a time to not conform to anyone or to anything, or to try to fit yourself into somebody else's small, tiny box to keep them comfortable because they've never experienced anything like this or you before, or themselves, those parts of themselves before. It's time to, and I love that you put this in the post, to not feed into each other's BS stories anymore, but to give each other truth and to empower each other to step into our own leadership, but then not to project that out and think that that's everybody else's blueprint too. Mm-hmm. That's what this old system is about. This is the way that I think that the world functions. This is my worldview. And so everybody else needs to adopt that worldview too. It's not about that. It's about, you are so unique and so diverse and so powerful and so gifted and so intuitive, and you have all the shit that I don't have, and you are a freaking gorgeous piece of the puzzle, and I am the same, but in different ways. And that's why we're different, and that's why we're diverse. And that whole construct, I'm just gonna send some violet light, some potent, to break that down right now, that whole paradigm of needing whole groups of people to be and act and think and do and feel the same. Mm-hmm. That's so disempowering. It's not ever going to be that way. It's not ever going to be that way. We are all inherently, uniquely, fundamentally different for a reason, because we are all needed in unique ways. We all have a part to play. We all have a gift to bring to the table. So this is about building one another, empowering one another, supporting one another to step into that uniqueness, dropping the systems, dropping the conformity, all of that, and really allowing one another to elevate and expand and to shine. And to me, what shining looks like is being fully in your power, being fully in your truth, and not feeding in to all of that stuff anymore, not conforming yourself, not playing small, not shrinking, not hiding, not conforming, and trusting yourself and trusting your gifts and your power, and then building that up with every other single person who is a part of your inner circle, that is a part of your team, that is a part of whatever it is that you're trying to build, do, create, bring forth into the world. That is the most optimal way for a group, a team, a leadership community to function. Because when everybody feels like they have a space to be honored and appreciated in their full power, in their full truth, without all these codependency games, without all this, oh, I'm more authoritative than you're authoritative, or everybody needs to follow what I'm saying so that I can feel significant. And everybody's just showing up authentically as who and what they truly actually are. And then everybody else isn't internalizing it and making it about them, or needing to try to change people and all that bullshit that is so played out. Then we can really come together and create something powerful. And that is something that I'm like so eager for. I am so eager for that, because when you get into a group of individuals who are whole, integrated, and embodied, you can show up fully expressed, fully empowered, fully authentic, and take epic quantum leaps. Because there's not all this game playing going on around, like, the lack of self-worth is what it comes back to. The game playing just always ties back into a lack of self-worth. I need you to make me comfortable, or I'm going to internalize this thing, or I'm going to think that you need to change. It's like, no, just be who you are and let other people be who they are too, without all that. It's like static interference. But the world is shifting to a place now where it's, and then I'll let you go. Well, it's like we see like these leaders here and there, right? We see really powerful, integrated, embodied leaders. And we see one here, and we see one here, and we see one here. It's time for us all to step into that. All of us to start stepping into that and functioning from that place.
Yeah, and start co-creating together, start leading together, start community together. No longer are you walking around purposeless, out of the zone, out of the heart, looking for your network, looking for your community. No, you create it with one another. With one another, not you all alone trying to build the whole world around yourself. No, you just do it together. And kind of what they're showing me right now is the reason people stick to that experience is because they're looking for that beautiful spider web, that webbing of support that is their inner system. They're looking for that in their outer world, in their outer reality. And because they don't know how to create that, because they haven't allowed themselves to tap into being a sovereign being, then they just look for these sticky webs, and then they just get stuck and just glued because they need something to hold on to. And being a sovereign being, sovereignty isn't about, being all alone or having this separation identity. It's about liberating yourself and finding freedom and having that space in community, in friendship, in business, in partnership, in leadership, in joy, in all of it, It's that interdependent layer that we've been longing for thousands and thousands of years.
Well, and this ties back into, so it's being independent within a group. It's about taking full responsibility for your entire experience, your thoughts, your emotions, your actions, your creations at every single level. And then it's not about anybody else out here. It's about what you have going on inside. And that's the piece. I mean, that's really the piece of like what we're seeing with this movement that's happening right now that I'm really excited about, because I feel like it's an opportunity for people to take full ownership of their own. How disempowering is that? If your environment is always dictating how you feel and what you're thinking about and what's going on in your body and how vibrant or not well you feel, well, good luck with life. Because there's always going to be people, and there's always going to be circumstances, and there's always going to be an environment. You know what I mean? You've got to come back in, and that's tapping into that sovereignty and be able to coexist then within other groups of sovereign people. But that sovereignty occurs from finding that power within, and to no longer giving it away or projecting it out or casting blame or making it about someone or something or anything else, a story, a situation, an experience. Like if there's something that you need to do or express, then that's all on you. It's taking that back in, and that's what I'm excited to see, because that's how leadership happens. You've got to be self-led first. And this is why we're doing the inner circle, because this is about being leaders together. This is about empowering, because I know when I work with my clients, they elevate and expand me too.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. They activate me like no other.
It's not like a one-way fucking show.
No.
Yeah. It's everybody. Coming, showing up in their full power together and doing it together and building together. And that really only happens when we start to take full responsibility for everything and every situation and every creation and every relationship and everything.
Yeah. And I just have to say this too. I mean, I know it's probably going to get us going on another tangent, but this is just coming through with what we're talking about. Empaths, it's a choice. Yeah. It's a choice to be an empath. You do not have to perpetuate the victim cycle that is identifying as an empath. And that's going to piss a lot of people off. But let me tell you, that was kind of part of my start of my journey. Was somebody, my master trainer in my coaching program, we did an exercise, and she pointed out to me that my answer was because I'm an HSP. And I'm like, an HS what? And whatever. She gave me that Elaine Aron book. I found out what an empath was. Like, oh, that's how I've been my whole life, blah, 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 blah. And then it just like perpetuated my victimhood and my victim consciousness so much. And I mean, just every time I see somebody call themselves an empath, I know where you are in your journey, but at the same time, I just want to shake you out of it, because all it is helping you identify that you're so much more beyond just a physical human being. That's it. We're all equally energetically sensitive. We're all equally tuned in. It's just a matter of, are you consciously aware of it or not? But if you are an empath, please stop allowing yourself to believe that you're just this energetic sponge who's a victim to your environment. Please stop avoiding places and people and just making yourself out to be this sick individual, because if you're picking up on that stuff, it's because you want to. It's because there's a part of you that wants to feel that lack, that wants to feel that out of control, that wants to feel that connection through pain, because you're so disconnected from your core.
That's so powerful, man. I'm like, I wish we had a simulator right now so we could show like what that core is.
I know.
We'll get on that. I want to learn how to create that. Actually, I love doing graphic work. So yeah, we'll do. Yeah. But there, okay. So with that, okay. So there's a few things, but one, stop internalizing what is not yours.
Yeah.
Send it back, return to sender. Just let people deal with whatever they need to deal with within themselves. And you don't internalize somebody else's story. And then the other piece of that is, I was reading a book recently, and I think I told you about this on another episode, but I'm going to bring it up again for anyone who's watching, because I thought it was hilarious. I literally just like dropped the book and started cracking up for like 5 minutes. It said it was a book on the occult, and it said if somebody ever tells you that they are under magical attack, punch them in the face. Obviously don't do that. That's, but it was funny because he was just being facetious, because it's whatever we're giving our power away to. It doesn't matter what it is. That's a label. I am a blank, therefore I blank. It's and even on some levels, I love to tune into different, like I still pay attention to astrology and like what's going on in the stars, and I find it fascinating and all of that. But I'm not going to give my power away to that alignment. I'm not going to give my power away to anything. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what it is, a label, a person, a planetary alignment. When this is really stepping into the core of sovereignty, the core of knowing who and what we are. If you were the creator, what would there be to give your power over to? You are.
Yeah.
You are that. The planets align the way that the planets align because of what we have going on in our collective consciousness. It's the macro and the micro reflecting one another, mirrors to one another. We could shift the whole thing if we wanted to. If enough of the collective consciousness focused in a specific direction, got enough momentum behind it,
Well, I was just going to say, for one, joking, I remember the first time I found out what Mercury retrograde was, and I experienced it. Man, did I create some shit because I played into that. But yeah, it's the same thing. It's like, just because you tune in I find it fascinating. I find all of this stuff fascinating. I find the spirituality, the astrology, the science, all of it just fascinating. But I don't have to make that part of my experience. I get to pick and choose what I want to. And the other thing I was going to say, that is why I was downloaded with these universal light codes, which is part of what I'm giving and producing in the inner circle. And we just started, but it's about grounding in the reality that you are the universe, that you have that ultimate power and creator potential deep inside of you. Like, it's already in there. It's in the DNA, in your atoms, in your cells, in your bones, in your blood vessels. It's in everything. And I know, sure, we can say that and read all these philosophical quotes all day and post them on Facebook and go, yeah, oh my God, I totally believe that. I know what that means. But are you experiencing it? And are you creating from that power that we're ready to create from? And it's just about grounding that in and embodying that on massive levels. And not, you know, I am so happy and grateful for our inner circle members, for my members in the who did the activation with me today, because you are brave and you are pioneers and you are breaking the mold on so many different freaking outstanding levels. I mean, it is powerful. It is earth shaking. It is, I don't have words. Like, I don't have words. The fact that these beautiful individuals are joining us to create in this way. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's really powerful that this is occurring right now too, and that we're doing this work, because it's being empowered and calibrated on so many levels by so many different beings. It's happening. It's happening. There's no other force. There's no other power that can hold back or resist this expansion that's occurring. And so we either calibrate to it, or what is the other option? What does nature do when something doesn't evolve, when something doesn't calibrate? And that's what's happening. And I know that it can seem a little bit hardcore sometimes, the way that we're just like, you know, but it's to help you realize how powerful you truly are and how capable you truly are, and to step all the way into that. And you can stay in your story, and you can stay in victim mode, and you can stay disempowered, and you can do all of that. And that's fine. That's a very valid choice. But this is where the energy is going. And so one of the things that they're calling through right now, well, how do I activate that? How do I have the visceral experience of that knowing? Because you're right. Until you're calibrated to that awareness, it's just words. It's just, your system is trying to compute. It's trying to integrate. It's trying to feel. It's trying to feel and have the experience of that knowing, because until we feel it directly, that we have the direct felt perception of it for ourselves, it's just that. It's just words. It's just an intellectual thing that's occurring and floating around, and it doesn't really mean all that much. I mean, that's how we channel. We access it from in,
Right.
We pull it through. It's just all activated in our cells. Command your DNA, command your cells, ask for what you want, ask to be awakened, ask to be calibrated. Whatever you want to experience, ask for that. And so this is about, okay, cool. So they're saying, instead of empowering your story, empower your own activations. I mean, this is the shit that we do in the inner circle. We've got 10 powerful fucking women calibrating one another, calibrating the future of the planet, and intentionally, consciously creating their realities in the exact way that they want to experience them. That is how much power you have. Anybody can do this. So it's about, instead of giving all of our energy, our focus, our attention into these old sticky constructs, come over here, start activating what you want. Ask and you shall receive. Start activating something new. Start asking for something new. Start empowering something new. Give your cells direction and guidance. Everybody can do this. You can all do this for yourself. And the more you do it and the more you practice it, the more masterful you become at it. And you can just pull these activations through in your sleep. I mean, last night I did an hour activation. It was just like, wow. Like, there's sometimes I wish they had machines that had electrodes that would hook up to my brain and translate everything that's coming through, because sometimes it just comes through in the most, you know. But it's just like that energy just coursing through, and the powerful activations that come through in those spaces blow even me away. And it's like, wow, we have these super normal capabilities to activate new worlds, new realities. We don't have to live by the same story anymore. We don't have to live by the old constructs. We don't have to conform to the old constructs.
I mean, you can literally, you can play however you want to, and in any way you want to, with whatever you want to. I mean, you and I have both played with nature. You and I have both played with time. You and I have both played with money. You and I have both played with relationships. You and I have both played with body. You and I have both played with materialization. You and I have both played with speed, light, dark. I mean, all of it. Like, it literally is that simple as and really what's coming through, because I can hear some people watching, well, nothing's going to happen if I just say like, like, well, it's challenging your be lie system, so you will be in more truth. If you think about when you take a step, it's not just like in an instance your other foot is in front of the other. No, there's a whole process of this foot lifting up and coming out and going into the other. But we're so used to it, it's so automatic, it's so fast, we don't experience it as that. But that's kind of, there is a bit of a process, but you got to start playing into that. I mean, just last night, I even caught myself. I was out and about doing something, and I'm very tuned to my body. I don't even need to listen to the story anymore. Something immediately in my body, I felt tense, and I go, nope, I'm not playing that game anymore. I'm not playing that game anymore. That's all that I said. Totally shifted my reality and my experience. You know, I talked to my DNA. I talked to my cells. I talked to my codons. I talked to my heart. And it's just simple. It's just automatic if you let yourself, if you open yourself up to the channel that already is running through your frequency and your system. You don't have to create a story. You don't have to have a huge dialogue. It's just start doing it. Just start playing. Like, what do you have to lose by believing this shit? Really? What do you have to lose?
Well, that's what I was just thinking. What do you have to lose? One. Two, there's so much scientific, peer-reviewed science that supports all of this now that it would just, I mean, I don't even want to go there, really, in this moment. But this is exactly what I was speaking to earlier. I'm not in any space in my life to try to convince anyone, to try to change anyone, to try to make, if you want to continue to, but my question would be, are you experiencing the results you want? Are you creating the results you want? Are you creating the reality you want? Are you experiencing the reality that you want? And this is where what you have to lose comes in. And if you're okay with things exactly as they are, cool. Like, keep playing that storyline out. I'm not going to come in and rescue you. I'm not going to come in and save you. At some point, you choose that for yourself because you want to. And if you don't want to, that's cool too. I'm probably not going to play with you, but that's cool. You know,
it's like, okay,
I get it.
Yeah. And there's a process to that too. You were speaking earlier to something I experienced greatly, is looking at an individual and seeing through their matrix, seeing through the grid work that they're playing out and that they're experiencing, seeing what's behind it, just seeing all of it. Notice I said seeing, not feeling, because I don't choose to experience their experience anymore. But when I started tuning into that, I went through a process. Of, because you're detaching, you're releasing codependency. So I went through a process of sadness. I went through a process of judgment. I went through a process of anger. I'm not saying you have to. I just chose to do it that way. And now I can look at like 99% of the time and be completely detached. Now, that causes certain reactions from these people, but I don't care. I don't care anymore. You're choosing to live in this reality.
Yeah.
It's not my job to teach you otherwise. It's not my job to pull you out or pull you in. It's not me, because that's me judging. That's me judging your experience. Who am I to judge what you choose to experience? That's not what I'm here to do. You could be in total lack and actually be in total enjoyment. I'm not... if I'm perceiving that, that's me judging that. So I'm just neutral. I just see, it's almost like what I see in the back of my head is I just see people running in their little circles and creating their drama because they need some excitement. They need some fun. They need to release that creative energy. And this is the way that they've chosen to do it. So, okay, fine, play that game. I'm neutral to it. Here's my answer to you. Here's my response to you. Here's how I'll play with you. It's not going to be in that game, so you're not going to like it because that challenges your framework and your blueprint. But again, I don't care. I'm neutral to that, Yeah.
I really appreciate that you said that, because that's kind of where I'm at with that whole... Well, it's that deep savior martyrdom energy. Well, if you're a good person, you should want to blank, because that's what my blueprint is. And just choosing not to feed into that anymore, not to, because what that's coming from is their own story around, I need someone to save me. I need somebody to do this for me. And so in my attempt to get that for myself, I'm going to give that. And so there's that whole dynamic that's going on within that. And I'm like, I have different responses to that sometimes, but my most authentic, genuine response is exactly what you said.
Yeah.
I just don't care. Yeah. I just don't care. And I'm not going to invest my energy into that anymore. And it was funny because when you were talking to, I was seeing like this whole group of people who are ready to be like fun and empowered and not like, you know, fully just triggered by every damn thing. To wake up and play Eye of the Tiger by Rocky. Or from Rocky. I used to wake up at 5:30 a.m. Oh man, and go for a run, and I would put that song. It was so fun for me. It was just funny. It was like a funny, fun, empowering thing to do, and just like brush it off. You know what I mean? Because when you start to step outside of other people's blueprints and expectations for the way that you need to be to keep them comfortable, you're going to trigger people. That's not your responsibility. You just keep it. And so the most fruitful thing that you can do for yourself is at least have a playful or a detached approach to it.
Yeah.
Not caring, not investing your energy, laughing, staying in your power, just continuing to live your life and do what you need to do for you.
Yeah.
You know? And just not entertaining it anymore, because that's how it feeds. That's how that energy feeds itself. It's like, oh, look at that free person.
Right. No, and you're going to trigger them. I mean, you're going to trigger them because it's a shift in their blueprint. It's, you know, it's like, if there's a water leak or something, right? And you're like, oh no, we want to go fix this, right? You're going to trigger them in some sort of way, but really it's just because there's that much space. That's much space between you. So on your end of things, you start to discover and realize, A, a brand new way to relate to your reality, but B, how much space you have to create new and create new stuff. But B, that space will trigger them because they're used to being that comfort of that closeness of you playing in their world or playing into their energetic field. Now they can't plug into you anymore. The space is too far. Their energy is too wrapped up in victimhood. So they're not willing to come all the way to your neck of the woods. They can't. And that's where the boundaries come in, is just holding that space.
Yeah, and not internalizing it and using your magic too. I mean, I love to create all kinds of like I use my metaphysical tools, and it's so much fun.
Yeah, so do I. And sometimes I realize when things came into my reality, it's like, okay, there's a part of me that was just getting bored. I wanted to shake shit up so I could use some of these cool tools, so I could experience more of myself in that way. All fun.
I mean, yeah, if you're going to be playing the game, you might as well have fun.
Right? Listen, if you're a human here on Earth, the name of the game is to have fun, okay? That's all I'm going to say. If anybody who doesn't agree with me, that's fine. I don't care. That's your choice. It's your experience. Don't come to my neck of the woods.
I mean, yeah, and I mean, I think that I think I'm just getting a lot more discerning around like the people that I want to play with, and realizing that it's safe and okay to let go of needing to quote save the world, because it's just, in a lot of ways, that whole I mean, that whole construct just perpetuates a world that needs to be saved.
Right.
It's like, what are we even saving? What are
we saving ourselves from? Why don't we just get rid of that
ourselves?
Yeah, but why don't we just get rid of that methodology once and for all. Maybe there is no saving that's needed after all. And that goes back to you, like, what if everything was fine? What if everything's okay? What if, you know?
Yeah. I mean, because what that's saying is the world is not okay how it is. People are not okay how they are. I need all of that to shift and change in order for me to feel empowered, in order for me to feel comfortable, in order for me to feel okay, for me to feel significant, worthy, like I'm useful, helpful, in service. All of that. A good Samaritan is coming through. You know, it's just allow people to have their experience exactly how they're having it. I mean, I think that's one of the greatest services that we can give to one another. There's so much freedom in that. And I mean, ultimately underlying all of the stories and all of the desires and all of that is truly a desire for freedom. To be exactly who and what we are, how we are, uninhibited, unfiltered, unrestricted, unconditional, self-love. And if you're going to do that, you've got to let go of caring what other people think. You have to let go of other people's opinions and perceptions and judgments and all of that, all the storylines around. You've got to love you. You've got to own you. You've got to claim you for you. That is the thing that will, I mean, save the world, help the world the most, is that if individuals come in and start to own and claim, because when you give that to yourself, you don't need all of this to give it to you anymore. You don't need all of this to shift and change for you to feel that and experience that anymore, because you are giving that to you. You are empowering you with that. That's how this whole thing turns into the thing that most people are trying to make it anyways. In the light working communities, the vision of the utopian, planet. I mean, we can come into true connection with one another where there's sincerity, where there's honesty, where there's deep listening to others, when we have self-love. Until then, it's just a grab. It's just a, what can you give me? Can you hear me? Can you validate me? Can you listen to me? Because we haven't given that to ourselves yet. And so, and oddly, that's the thing. It's kind of like the unifying the paradox. It's like that. The thing that saves the world is when you come back to you and you stop trying to save the world.
Just writing something down.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, I think that's like a really powerful note to end on, actually, though. Like that, just let that sit and ruminate. Yeah.
I mean, that's that. Yeah. Self-love.
Yeah.
Number one value of creation.
Yeah. Yeah. Creation of self-love. Yeah. How are you feeling? Do you want to add anything else?
No, I feel really good. Oh, I'm good. Man, we had 3 days without expression. I feel
that's a good thing. Look at everything that came out.
I know, right? You're right. Yeah.
You had space a little bit. Yeah.
Oh, I know. I was starting to get yesterday. I had so much clean energy. I was like, I've got cold sweats of just coursing all this source energy. It just needs to come out. It needs to express. Oh, and in a container.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Oh my God. No, thank you. I love you so much. I'm so grateful for just you as a being, as a channel.
In so many ways. You're like a freaking one of the best creations that I've ever made.
Ditto. Yes, ditto. I love it. Fuck yes. I'm sorry, but that deserves a fuck yes.
Oh my God, I'm
Oh my God.
so thankful. So, yeah, so freaking thankful. Thank you.
Me too.
Thank you for having the capacity. Yeah. That in and of itself speaks volumes.
Oh gosh. And thank you for everyone listening. Thank you for our inner circle members. If you still want to join, we have a few spots open. If you really, really, really want to tap into your creative potential and creative power and expand into new, I feel some of you right now. I feel some of you sitting on some really powerful ideas and you're just afraid to step into that potential. And that's what this space is for. It's an incubator. It's a vacuum. It's a speed of light channel. I mean, it's going to accelerate you and expand you with support and with love and with compassion. I mean, I know we talk all about no room for bullshit, but we're going to hold the container in the spaces and places where you need to release that. And then we're going to teach you how to shift your energy just like that the next time that comes up or comes through for you, so that you don't have to sit and wait around, and that you can just move into the next thing that you want to.
Yeah. And there's, I mean, I'm accelerated abundance and accelerated freedom. This is like succinctly, this is how the energy is translated into from the non-physical all the way into the physical. This is what you can do to create these shifts for yourself now, instantly. And I feel some women who are doing well, but still playing in the 3D. A little bit more, like I can feel them ready to expand into the next thing, but admitting that they need that support can be a challenge for them right now to go all the way there and to go all the way into that next expansion that their soul is calling them towards. So this is my invitation to not fear that place, to let go of your ideas and your belief systems around what is and isn't possible for you, and around creating instant shifts in your reality. That is a huge thing that I see all the time. Is, well, it's going to require these many months and this much work and this. No,
we get rid of that.
Story. Yes, that's such a story. Once you understand how the energy is translated from non-physical to physical, you can do that for whatever it is that you want to create. But we're talking pure abundance of source energy here, and you can focus that into creating financial freedom and financial abundance in your life in an accelerated rate. It's so powerful. It's so powerful. So we want to invite you guys there. Don't be afraid to take a step, to go plunge into the deep unknown. What the heck, you know what I mean? What the heck do you have to lose, right?
Exactly. And you know what? Just reach out to us personally. If you're still on the fence, if you're teeter-tottering, if you're not sure if this is really, the next step, I'm sure it is, but it's just say, reach out to us, because then we can talk to you more on a specific level about what you're currently experiencing, what that next level is for you, and how we're going to move you there in really step-by-step, detailed, succinct, real, grounded ways. I mean, we talk about manifestation and magic and using our energy and using all these supernatural powers, like, there's realness behind that. There's actual process to doing that. We're not just saying these things and just going to say more of the same things. I mean, that's how we learned to create, by understanding and breaking down the processes behind it. Now, your ego may not like it, because some of these things are actually really simple, and that's where the fun comes in, is when you realize just how light and easy all of this is. But we're going to teach you all that. We're going to expand your energy into being capable of all that, because part of it is the knowing and just kind of getting it from a logical standpoint. And then the other part of it is just energetically, like, being able to embody all of that. So that's where a lot of that activations come through.
Yes. And it's powerful to have us both in that container with you, because you will get activated and calibrated, and then you will have the tangible, logical steps to really anchor that awareness into the physical and duplicate that for yourself. And I mean, there's 3 points of focus that I work with people on, specifically on those levels of creation: energy, vision, and action. Those are the 3, and it goes in that order. It goes in that order. And then we delve deep into those three things so that you can translate the energy into your physical experience, and you can duplicate it over and over and experience the electricity of life, the fun of life, the exhilaration of life, and even the magnetism of life, right, too. So those moments when you need to just kick back and chill and relax, and you can do that feeling totally supported by your reality, because you know you've got that balance between that really powerful electric expressive energy and then that really magnetic open receptive energy. And so this is activating your full potential, your full creative potential, and balancing out that in your energy body. And that's where the activations are really fucking palpable and potent and powerful. And that's why it's important to have a container, because it's going to just like, you're just going to expand and you're going to calibrate really quickly. So it's beautiful to have other people there to support in any capacity. I mean, even if it weren't the inner circle, even if it were just people in your reality who are really there to empower you in your full expression in community, having that is powerful, period. But doing it with other people, obviously, who are doing the same thing as you are, is highly valuable and important. But just having that, like me and Jen, it's so powerful, because you can grow exponentially faster, and you can sustain. And so this is about sustained alignment, right? So like shifting out of the story, shifting into alignment, sustaining the alignment, and expanding the alignment. This is where we cross the threshold truly from fear into love. Yeah. When you love, you are not in fear. You're not in fear of the darkness. You're not in fear of whatever else it is out into. You're literally living in love. And we talked about earlier how that might look and express a little bit differently than what you conceive it to be right now. But this is living a fearless, embodied, expansive, creative, abundant life, and crossing that threshold permanently. This is about that permanent shift, and not dipping back into those like stepping up and being a pioneer and being a trailblazer and leading the way and showing other people that this is fucking possible. Because for so long, it's, man, if we just perpetuated some of those old paradigms, we would be all healing for God knows how long, how many centuries, how many millennia, right? Like we don't have to go into that, but these instant shifts are possible. You have experienced them in momentary glimpses in your life, in your reality, when you were feeling in your power, when you were tapped into that magical source energy, when you were creating from your knowing, from your desire. You've all experienced this. It's about living from that space. It's about tapping into that magic that you are and embodying it, staying there and expanding upon that, and inviting other people into that space too. So yeah, we'll pop the links below. It's 11:11 here, so hell, let's call it.
Yes, I love it.
Perfect,
powerful,
cool. So much good, so much love.
I know. So we'll see you all tomorrow at 4 p.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. Central, Tuesday through Fridays from now on, with more exciting, more of the same energy, because now we're ramping up again. I can just feel the fire.
Me too. It's so good. It's so good. So futuristic. Very forward moving. Yeah, cool.
Okay.
Well, have a good night, guys. We love you. We'll see you tomorrow.
Yes. Love you all. All right. Bye.
Bye.